It's been a while before we had a live, and today I've decided we're gonna have a live. How are you? I hope you're doing well. I welcome you on board. Come here and let's go on with our discussion in Fathers of Nations, right? Yeah, so guys, how about we discuss one question here to just enhance the focus of the students in our classrooms as they go back to school, right? Yeah. So let's start this way. I'll read the question. I'll repeat it like thrice before I go on. Some people get to be bored because they come here and they don't know maybe what we are discussing, and they begin saying, I hate you. Some say, what are you discussing? And that's why I like introducing, because this channel is about education, entertainment, and reactions. So today I've just decided I'm going to be academic, and I'm focusing on Fathers of Nations for students who are in Form 4. Welcome on board. Maybe fellow teachers would want to listen. I also welcome you on board. Yeah, so my question is, neocolonialism seems to be here to stay, and it affects African nations. Do you agree? Show your arguments in an essay by closely referring to Fathers of Nations by Paul Vita. Neocolonialism seems to be here to stay, and it affects African nations. Do you agree? Show your arguments in an essay by closely referring to Fathers of Nations by Paul Vita. So for those who have read this novel, of course you understand how many African nations have been engaged in this book. We have Kenya, we have Nigeria, we have the case of Gambia, and then we have Zimbabwe. Those are mainly focused because the main four characters, Kimani, Melusi, we have Chiamaka, and we have Mahmoud, or rather, let's say Taib, because that is the key character. So those characters have been brought on board, and therefore that's why we focus on their countries and how they have been affected. And of course, the summit is conducted in Gambia, so you cannot avoid Gambia. You can also mention, of course, Libya. In this case, as I've said, we have Tahir on the list. So welcome on board, and feel free to engage me in a chat as long as it will focus towards what we are doing, or just say a hello to me. Yeah, so my introduction goes as this. It is clear that even though African nations are independent, most of their decisions are held by the former colonial masters. In our current Fathers of Nations, Libya, Kenya, Nigeria, Gambia, and many other countries have decisions that are closely tied to the Western world. Therefore, they are affected by neocolonialism. Yeah, so thank you. I've seen one person on board. I wish to welcome more people. Yeah, so the first paragraph, body paragraph, the change initiated for African leaders in the summit held in Gambia is pushed by international bodies which are not part of Africa, and partly it affects the thinking, or rather the decision process of African leaders. King Ken, hi, how are you? Which country are you from? Okay, so let me proceed with the discussion, and with the time, of course, I can see more people coming on board. Thank you very much. Stay put and feel warm with me. So the presidents have to go for the change, or miss out on possible aid they get from some countries. Way Omega is a strategy that was generated by 20 of the world's brightest way, that is Nobel Prize winners, who saw the best interest in developing Africa. Now, the heads of the 50 countries do not actually understand change, or even do not approve it. In the summit, you can see them quarreling, right? An aspect that we can see is effect, because there is no peace in the summit. Jamba, for example, as a king, has less to worry about because his leadership is a birthright, whereas the rest of the leaders or heads of state, such as Bangora, have become a tyranny who don't care or do not want power to be relented from them, however old they are. So this is typical of colonialism that oppresses Africans and deprives them of the right to vote. Therefore, we can see the colonialism as it comes to force them and they are not ready for it. It actually affects on their thinking, and you can see a quarrel that emanates within the meeting. So thank you. I can see Bad Guy 254 saying hi, how are you? I can also see King Ken saying from Kenya, which specific place in Kenya. Okay, I'm so appreciative that many of you are coming on board and you're saying you like what I'm doing. I'm so appreciative of that. I also wish that you subscribe to my channel because that will add, it will add some points on my part. Yeah, so I hope you subscribe. Yeah. There is Mose who is saying, can I be a moderator? King Ken is saying, I'm from Kiambu. Welcome. All right. I do not actually understand whether as a moderator you'll take part in the discussion. Because if you do understand, then I have no problem with this. You can actually be. All right. So thank you for coming on board. I'm so happy many people are streaming in. Yeah. So let me get to the second paragraph. We are discussing Fathers of Nations, a book that is being studied. And it's very much okay, whether you are in class or not, whether you have a student or not. Literature is just life, If you get to understand these books, you can sit around other people and you just tell them what these books are about. So on our question where we are talking about neocolonialism and how it affects Africa, the second paragraph is as this. Even though African people choose to govern themselves and they pick leaders who can represent them, such leaders only leave them in trouble because they are working under the influence of the white, or rather the Western world. Yeah, so the current leaders are mere black Europeans, yeah, who oppress their fellow citizens and seem to colonize them once more. If you look at Fathers of Nation, we can see tyrannies who rule in dictatorial manner. Yeah, so the president of Zimbabwe, for example, decides to humiliate and worsen the lives of his people by taking the only thing, that they rely on. Yeah, so you can see actually when the summit is being conducted, what does he do? The president of Gambia. So let's go back to the president of Zimbabwe. The president of Zimbabwe decides to kill a lot of people using kukurahundi. Then he brings down their businesses again, and freedom is not given to them at all. So then, this is what we call neocolonialism, because these people don't feel the independence they fought for. Yeah? So the people here wish they would have died. You can actually see the author telling us that they cannot afford a meal, right? Yeah, and you saw an example of how at some point, my phone is almost dying. Okay, so you saw an example in which Melusi is being offered a meal and is actually happy. Yeah, I can see somebody else has come. Boss B 317 Lilies. Hi, how are you? Welcome on board. I feel very much warm with the presence of you people. We have Bad Guy 254, King Ken from Kenya. Moses wanted to be a moderator and I said, of course, we can go on. Yeah, as far as you need to, you really are ready to do what I'm doing. There is Boss B 317 Lily. Hi to you. And there are very many people also coming and going. And we have several likes. So let's proceed to paragraph 3. Paragraph 3, we focus on the aspect of Kenya. From the text point of view, Kenya, we have a member of parliament who can afford to hold coups. Members of parliament in Kenya, they hold coups by amending laws so that they continue amassing wealth while citizens suffer. So you can actually see this is neocolonialism because now the leaders have a say. They go to the parliament and they vote for policies that would favor them. For example, they don't want to pay tax, so they pass such policies which make them remain wealthy or affluent, but they do not have to pay for anything. So the rest of the citizens suffer as a result of this. Let's see, for example, this is the level at which wealth is in the hands of few and many suffer. An example of MP Walomu, right? So MP Walomu affords to scare off the pursuers in a by-election with an intention of taking over power. Once in power, he amasses wealth. We are told he has a fleet of, a flight of vehicles, many, and he has a very large office now. He's just marrying women one after the other. And of course, at the end of the day, the rest of the citizens, such as Kimani, suffer. When Kimani goes to ask about the wife who has been stolen, what happens? This man mocks him, talking about Greeks and the common practice of taking away wives, and he says all is gold. He says a real bull dies with green grass in the mouth, and he says all his women will die while young, right? And all this is because of money that they have looted. Yeah. Now the lecturers have the least salary, and you can see Kimani struggling a lot. He cannot even afford to have a better vehicle, and his life becomes useless. The wife Asia sees nothing in him, a man not going anywhere anymore. Yeah. So we can see that neocolonialism has eaten into the lives of the citizen. In another paragraph involving the situation of Libya, Tahir believes his president is now a puppet of America, and that's why the citizens are suffering. The president who once could scare off the Americans is now relying on their decisions. After the bombing of after the Al-Qaeda bombed America, he closes the Feast of Allah, a farm that is meant to produce weapons, right? So that Americans do not attack them. He also decides to compensate, the Americans for whatever they suffered. And in the process, we can see that the citizens such as Tahir suffer because they lose jobs. Of course, Ms. Mahamoud, we are not told details, but of course, we expect if she was working in that company and it was closed down, she's also losing a job. Yeah. So the Gambian president is creating a rapport with the whites, but at the end of the day, he's spoiling what is supposed to be at home. Yeah. So the ending or closure paragraph, finally, even though Africa got independence, it's not independent at all because of the real situation in which citizens have to be humiliated by the white policies and how they have to follow such. Yeah, so that is my discussion. I'm so appreciative many of you came on board, though I had a challenge with the power almost going off from my phone, and then the movement of the the camera a bit. But I'm so happy many of you came on board to support me. King Ken, I'm so happy. We have Moses, King Ken, Boss B, 317, Bad Guy, and many other people. So I'm so appreciative for your support that you showed, and you're still with me. So once I look at such a question, I normally go back to our situation and ask, do you know what neocolonialism is? Do you feel neocolonialism in Kenya, for example? Do you think the policies we make, like even the Shah, let's say the Shah decision, do you think the decision maybe to have us focus on white-collar jobs and avoid other situation of growing? Do you think the situation of how we come up with our policies using a parliament, the way our people, the governors, the MPs, and all those leaders behave, do they behave in a way that they are, inheriting what the colonialists did? Like, do we have that clear-cut space between the leaders and those who are led? Do you see situation whereby leaders think they are better and therefore they can't listen to citizens? Yeah. Do you look at a situation whereby you see people are going for summits, but they are not sure about what they are doing because maybe the policies came from elsewhere. Yeah, we have some colonial or power influence. Like even our education system, is it out of the, the strict adherence to what the colonial master once had? The possession of wealth against those who don't have, is it also an aspect that is inherited from colonialism? So we should ask ourselves a lot of questions. As we handle these books, actually, we have to apply them. That will be critical thinking that will help us solve problems, even as leaders in our society, and at the same time answer questions. Otherwise, bye-bye. Love you so much for those who came on board, and I'm happy that you did.